Talk. Good evening.
Yes, Governor Palin, thank you for taking the call. My question relates to CO2 emissions and cap and trade.
Mm-hmm.
Human CO2 emissions are less than 4% of natural. During the last 7 to 9 years, global average temperatures have dropped while CO2 concentration in the atmosphere has risen. Data indicates that CO2 lags temperature, not leads it, indicating it's not causal. China is going to increase their emissions by a factor of 10 of what the United States could ever decrease its emissions. If the United States did decrease its emissions, it would only cause about 0.02 degrees C reduction in temperature. So my question to you is, would you fight cap and trade or any carbon tax?
I'll tell you what. You sound like you're on the same page as I am in the belief that in order to mitigate a lot of the long-term changes that you're suggesting are happening, it's going to require a huge effort, national, global effort, to decrease the release, some say, of the human-produced greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. But simply waiting for that to happen, for low-carbon emitting renewable capacity to be large enough, is going to mean that it's too late to meet any of the mitigation goals for reducing CO2 that will be required under most credible climate change models. So meeting the goals that the environmentalists want us to meet with CO2, it's going to require a dramatic increase in the very near term to preferred available fuels like our natural gas, because our natural gas has a very low carbon footprint, and that can be used within the existing energy infrastructure. That's all good. The available fuels that we have, including Alaska's natural gas, it's required to supply the nation's energy needs during this transition to the green energy alternatives that the Obama administration wants us to adopt, to embrace, and that's what their cap and trade is all about. We have to increase production of our resources, our natural gas, and then we don't have to believe that the only solution is the cap and trade proposals that we're hearing about on a national level right now.
Well, I think you're missing my point a little bit. I think there is no point in reducing carbon emissions, because I think that the scarcity of energy will take care of that by itself in us needing to become more efficient. And besides that, reducing carbon emissions makes fossil generation less efficient, not more efficient, because you have to pump it to 2,000 psi to get it underground.
What I'm saying is I think that we're on the same page here, but when you consider that so many people, and obviously the Obama administration, believes that in order to mitigate changes in climate, it's going to require a huge effort to decrease the release of human-produced greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. But we're saying, no, you can't wait for that renewable capacity to be large enough to make a difference. That it's going to be too late to meet their mitigation goals for reducing CO2. We have to increase natural gas production.
And just to clarify, Governor, your stance on, you are against cap and trade because of these things, I'm assuming.
Well, I'm trying to be pragmatic about it and understand that if this is what is coming, if we're outgunned, if we're outnumbered, and the new
you're
administration...
You're saying if cap and trade is coming, is
yes,
what you're saying.
Exactly. We have to be pragmatic about it and live within that new reality, if that's going to be the reality. And we have to do the educating and the proving that increasing natural gas development from here in Alaska is part of the solution. It's not just this cap and trade idea that they have on a federal level.
My point is, I don't think Alaska should be, and I don't think the United States as a whole should be spending, in my opinion, totally wasting trillions of dollars to reduce our temperature by 0.02 degrees in the next 50 to 100 years.
But I agree with Governor. I agree with what you're saying is that if the cap and trade is coming, that we need to find a way to push the boundaries of it. I understand that, but shouldn't we also be fighting the installation of cap and trade prior to having to face those boundaries?
Yeah, and I'm not a defeatist. I'm not saying that Alaska's little voice will not be heard in the debate, but I am saying we have to be pragmatic. We have to be realistic about it. And if this is what is coming from this new administration especially, we have got to be ready for that, and we have to do our part to remedy the problems that I believe the cap and trade are going to cause.
All right. Let's move on to the next phone call. 458-TALK. Over here. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, thank you for bringing Governor Palin to us.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, she's probably the best next thing to Wonder Woman.
Okay.
As our governor. I would like to ask her to maybe explain a little bit again about AGEA and how that it is going to be so wonderfully profitable, if not immediately, to those who are the naysayers that seem to come on the program at times. And in light of the fact also that TransCanada has said more recently that there's 30% more economical since AGEA, apparently this past year. And I don't know all the details on that, but she may know. And the shale oil gas also is, it's not cheap. It's cheaper. It's heavier more problematical to mine and to get. So some people are saying that, we don't need to worry so much about AGEA because of the shale gas and so forth. But I'm so happy about the gas.
All right, well, let's see what she has to say about it, Governor.
Well, you're right on. The shale development is very, very expensive. And it frustrates me to hear some folks poo-poo the idea of AGEA still because they say, hey, there's competing gas elsewhere throughout Canada or in the lower 48. And I'm saying, no. Our gas, our supply is going to complement supplies from elsewhere. There are huge demands. Demands are going to keep increasing. And unless we want to be more and more reliant on foreign sources of energy, including natural gas, we had better not look at AGEA and the gas line to be built from Alaska's North Slope to hungry markets throughout Alaska and the lower 48 as a competing project. We better look at it as a complementing project. And thankfully, because of AGEA, we have competing lines even now. Finally, after 30, 40, 50 years of Alaska hoping for some kind of a line to actually come to fruition, we have two lines in the work. We have the Denali project and the AGEA project with TransCanada Alaska. It is thanks to a competitive, open, transparent process where you essentially go out to bid on commercializing Alaska's gas, building the infrastructure to do so. That's AGEA. Thankfully, because of that vehicle that we built, we have the two competing projects, and that's why it's going to work. That's why it's going to happen. The two projects essentially will race to a finish line, whether that be the open season in 2010 or some other benchmarks that have to be met. AGEA has been the vehicle to spur the project, get it off the dime, and allow this commercialization of our gas that will happen for Alaska.
I really wish we had an hour. I'm going to go to the next call, 458-TALK. Over here, we've got about 10 minutes left. Good evening.
Governor Michael?
Yes.
This is Mark Hammer, and my question to you, governors, would you be committed to give Michael's show 1 hour of airtime approximately every 6 weeks so we in the spirit can talk and hear from you, please?
I would be happy to continue to speak with Michael and put more time on the schedule for this talk show. Michael knows that I'm a fan of the show, and unfortunately, it's usually Fridays that I call in, and I screw up the agenda, and we don't get to talk about firearms. We talk about my issues. But, let me, relay to our schedulers that we need to put more time on the schedule for the Michael Duke Show.
That would be awesome.
We here in the interior would love that mightily, and thank you so much for your call today.
Thank you.
Thanks for your call.